Hello, this is MDS 500, and I wanted to make another guide for how to do the Root of Nightmares dungeon solo on Hunter in the Season of the Wish. Um, I think it's kind of interesting that Bungie released, three dungeons with Lightfall and only brought back one raid, which was Crota. But at least this dungeon is quite difficult to do solo. Um, a lot easier with three people or two people for sure, but definitely very fun. And one of the best challenges I think is currently available in the game. So if you find yourself with a lot of free time and don't mind having to reset a lot as you learn specific patterns, you can do a pretty fun dungeon. I think the other cool thing about this one is that there's actually red borders that you can get. None of the weapons are particularly amazing. I think a lot of them are overhyped. Briars is kind of outclassed by Whisper. And the grenade launcher has some situational parts to it, where in some situations, like surrounded and envious assassin and a rapid fire strand can do a lot of damage. But for the most part, I think the rest of the weapons from this raid are very overrated. I think Rufus will be considered trash the moment that strand surges go away on every activity, just because auto rifles aren't that good right now. Honestly, even after all the buffs, there's no point in really using them over a hand cannon or an SMG. I think the trace rifles kind of have an ammo problem, so you end up using like field prep frenzy, which is just kind of awkward. It's okay for damage rotations if you or objectives, but yeah. And then honestly, I can't even remember what the other gun is. Nessa's or something. It's a terrible void. Um, But as part of the red border, you can there's a way to guarantee one red border at the end of your completion. I just peeked at it at the beginning while I was flying through the air. It was dark, light, dark. And so if you haven't seen it before, you just go down into that room and you connect the dark node together. Um, I will have the loadouts for this at the end, so feel free to skip to it if you want. But for the first encounter, Forerunner does a really good job of killing the tormentors. Like really good job. I highly recommend it. You can use Izzy to one shot them instead, but um, sometimes you're in a panic and you're just trying to shoot the chest. So Foreigner can be good for that. This entire raid is about pattern recognition and not messing up Eager Edge. So that's why there's a lot of like practice makes perfect here. You can see when these guys spawn, you only have a very little amount of time to complete this first one. It usually is the most difficult for me. This and the last one, because in the last one there's just so many ads. But in this case, you can see I went and dealt with them after I grabbed the first note, just because they happened to be like kind of in the way. Um, you can also activate your super at the very end and just shoot them when right before you finish the last node. But I find saving my super for the first tormentor to guarantee the kill is also really useful. So it's kind of up to you how you want to approach that first one. Um, we're using whatchamacallit, stompies to get a lot of extra height on our jumps through the first two encounters. And that just allows us to get over the ads when things aren't necessarily in the right position. And then before going forward, I want to call out another thing. This footage is going to be muted for the first basically half of it. Again, this dungeon takes a lot of practice to solo, and this run, which I happened to finally do end to end in one sitting, I had people on the microphone in Discord, and just to respect their privacy, I'm gonna mute the first half of this video so you don't hear a conversation. It's nothing important. We're just talking about Vow and other raids, but again, I didn't get their permission to record, so I'm not gonna have it. I would put some music from the raid over this, but a little bit lazy to go record that. So for now, it's just gonna be muted. You get to listen to me. Hope it's not too bad, but again, we're just gonna use Forerunner to kill the tormentors. It does a lot of damage, really, really good to their they're unshielded, and that's part of the reason why. If you weaken them as well and you're radiant, it doesn't take that many shots to finish them off. But overall, if you use your super on the first one, you won't have it back for the second or third one. Or you will have it back for the third one, but you won't have it back for the second one. So you'll want to pop at the moment that the sweeping terror comes up. I did it a little bit early. I'm actually kind of surprised it counted there. And Yeah, something to note is when you're doing these, it's always going to be the first two in front of you, and then it's going to be kind of a random one for the third, and it'll spawn back up at the first one. So you see here, it was the first was on the left, and then the second was on the right, and the third was up top. So the first again, and it kind of follows that pattern. It like the game I think tries to always spawn two back, if that makes any sense. So if you're on number five, it'll try to spawn on three. Um, it should have spawned up top. I don't know why it spawns here, so that's why I say I think it's not always the most consistent. I think there's some logic where it attempts to spawn in specific spots, but it can't, and that's more noticeable on like Nezarec. But here I don't have my super back up yet. I did kill enough ads. It's totally fine. You don't have to kill the tormentors at the beginning of usually that's just the most convenient time. But if it's not the most convenient, go ahead and just get the kill while you're middle of running. Especially if you're just able to regain your super, just pop it, shoot their chest, one or two shots. You can even go for body shots with gold gun, and it'll actually do enough damage to kill them. So, yeah, I think that's what I end up doing here. In general, for this and Nets for Nezarec, it's kind of best to gamble on where the orbs are going to spawn. Take that 50-50 chance on, hey, if I go the right direction, I just save a lot of time. And if I go the wrong direction, I have Eager Edge to correct me. Eager Edge can send you a pretty far distance. Sometimes you end up overshooting your target anyway, so it's okay if you go the wrong direction for like a couple seconds. The time save of getting it right just ends up being better than sitting there and waiting to find out where it spawned. If you've ever felt that Eager Edge doesn't go where you want it to go, that's kind of this entire raid. I'm sorry, dungeon. So it's you're gonna get a lot of practice. Let's just put it that way. You will end up learning what situations are safe to Eager Edge in. How to look towards the sky. Or even if you can, you anticipate that, hey, I'm going to be edging towards somebody, but that's okay because I'll just swing my sword normally afterwards. Just because Eager Edge isn't there, the sword with that hot swap or whatever it's called, it does give it some extra lunge distance. Oh, and it's typically faster than just, going from a slow zero and accelerating via walking. Swinging your sword can be a faster acceleration. So. The first encounter is all about practice and kind of pattern recognition with learning where those scions spawn. And then again, gambling on where the nodes are. You want to max out your mobility. You want to max out your resilience. And yeah, you want to get the raid armor as well. So while we're going through this traversal section, also where the secret chest is for the dungeon, but you want to get the armor. It's absolutely necessary for this. Getting 4 of them and 1 exotic, obviously. And you put I can't remember, it's like reclaimed light or something. Whenever you lose a field of light or a field of dark, whatever they're called, buffs, you gain restoration times 2, which is absolutely overpowered. It's incredibly broken, and it's amazing that warlocks can get it for free and all the other classes have to do some weird shenanigans to get it. But having restorations times 2 and that allows you basically much at all times with like an Empyrean build, having a solar weapon on and getting kills with either your knife or your primary weapon, and just extending that restoration times 2 indefinitely means you just can't die, especially comboed up with resistance. Often you can run additional mods. This raid has all Cabal units, so solar mods work really well, or Void for Nezarec at the very end. That really makes you nigh indestructible with restoration times 2. I don't always have the extra resistance mods on. They're not quite necessary because restoration is just that good. So you can definitely run reserves instead and just gain a little bit extra ammo. There are some scenarios where you can get a little bit sketchy if you don't have a single brick, especially on the second encounter. I have definitely reached the 3rd floor a couple times, gone to swing, and nothing happens. I'm like, oh crap, and it's just a wipe. Here you can see Forerunner just absolutely deleting Tormentor when they're not moving around and smacking you in the face, and you're getting flinched by 10 other things. This is the first secret chest. You just have to kill a Tormentor, pretty easy. Every drop in this has the chance to be a raid weapon. I'm sorry, a red border dungeon weapon, rather. And the easiest way to get the raid armor is like load up a master clear, like just either join people on LFG or something, and finish Nezarec on a master weekend. Um, and look for the buff that it's giving out. So say it's like giving intellect, strength, or discipline. Then you can put on a damage resistance mod. I can't think of it right now. Resilience mod to your ghost, and just buy one of each armor. It doesn't need to be a perfect roll. You're really just trying to get 100 resil so that you get that overpowered 30 damage resistance with restorations times 2. If you'll notice here, I'm not skating. You can absolutely skate through this section. I haven't bothered to learn how to skate, and just really hasn't affected me at all because I really have some, I'm not the best at typing really quickly. Way better at aiming. I don't know how people are so dexterous with their left hands. I swear I'm just a right only. So I'm just going through this and using the launchers. I found that if you walk over the launcher and shoot it while you're like walking over it and you're moving quite quickly, that's more likely that it'll just send you flying. And most of the time, you'd think that's a really bad thing, but you're really trying to go very fast here, and you don't have that much room for error, especially on the second level and kind of the third level. The first level, you have like 20 seconds of mistakes that you can make, but you're just going to be hopping across, and every time you dunk, you gain restoration times 2. So keep that in mind. If you ever get into a sketchy situation where you're low in health, just try to dunk. That'll basically give you nigh invincibility. And you'll see that at the end when I go to dunk the last node on each side. I'll just wait patiently until my buff runs out, and then I'll kill a bunch of red bars to max out restoration times 2 with Empyrean. And then from there you can just face tank everything in the game because, again, Warlocks can get invincibility for free as the non-tank class, but everything else kind of suffers. So here I forgot to get my restoration up, but it did up. I don't remember what got it high up. I think probably just ran out of a buff in the background or something weird. I'm using the Meta tool here, or the Callus Mini tool, for the lightweight bonus because I actually don't have 100 mobility on this. I think I have like 70 or something. It doesn't make that big of a difference, but it does certainly help to get those extra jumps. Plus the 900 RPM or whatever it is really good for shooting the orbs. I found, oddly enough, when I was recording, that shooting the orbs was way less consistent. This is what I mean by just hiding until my buff runs out, because you just get invincibility for free. So I'm not sure why. Other people recommend a trace rifle for this for the same reason. When the gun shoots really fast, it's just really easy to walk into the orb and walk out of it. And you shot it. You can just spray and play. If you ever like hop over the node, you can just shoot down it really, really fast, and you might be able to catch it. And I'm still sticking to Forerunner here just because its damage is really good. Those nades are hilarious when just for fun. You could kill something with the nade and pop an ad, and or pop like 100 ads with one clear. It's just fun. You can run whatever here. I know people would like to run Izzy and Witherhoard to help kill the champions a little bit better. Your main focus is just running and staying alive. So you can see here I lost the Radiant, which is a bit odd. Lost my health bar, which is great. Thank you, game. I'd like to be able to see what my health is. Going into the second floor, what becomes more difficult is keeping the eager edge from hitting the ads, especially towards the end. I'll try to speak more about this when we get there, but you'll want to kind of jump off the edge and then eager edge back in. And you want to jump off the edge towards the middle far enough that when you swing your edge, you're not going to just go immediately back towards the right or the left towards the ads that you just wanted to get away from. And overall, it ends up being a little bit more tight with timing if you're not skating, because the launchers are just so far away. So you can skate if you want. The new dungeon exotic can give you Devour pretty easily. The new Warlord's Ruin dungeon exotic. So that ends up being really good on Stasis, because you just get a couple kills with that and it gives you Devour, and then you can use whatever weapon you want to keep up Devour. And that ends up being the best way to kind of stay alive on Stasis, because otherwise Stasis survivability is quite terrible if you're not constantly getting those dunks for restoration. I'm not sure how people use that subclass. It's quite garbage. This is what I mean by jumping off to the side and then swinging so you don't hit those ads. Um, and there's another example of just Eager Edge doing its own thing. You will get quite a bit of practice at it. Sometimes it still amazes me where it won't work or it will work. And if you have Forerunner grenades readied up, this is a good spot to throw it because all these ads kind of clump up. You really want to look towards the ceiling, try and have the ads beneath you. So Eager Edge will easily target ads that are at the same level or above you, even when you're looking up. You can see here that he just happened to be too close. I wasn't far enough away to the left. And since every second really matters for this floor, it's kind of unfortunate, but I do get a little bit of a time save here by almost dying, but then getting the Eager back with the fast push from that launcher. The third floor isn't too bad either. It's mostly just trying to not get pushed by the flamethrowers off the map. They're a little frustrating sometimes, but thankfully you can mostly just ignore them because there's so few of them compared to like the gladiators in this one, where they're just constantly in your face. And this dark node is a prime example of what you really want to jump way out to the side because otherwise there's just too many. You're gonna get the Eager Edge is gonna want to hit one of them instead of your target. That's a good slash. Unfortunately, it was a bad follow up, but plenty of time. You can see that this is by far the tightest one though. You really want to take your time clearing all the ads. There's no rush. There's no timer that occurs, to my knowledge, for this area once you've finished both sides. So focus on killing the red bars to keep up the restoration, and focus on killing the champion because the champion could slow you down, and it becomes really awkward when you can't move at all, and a bunch of enemies just come into your face and start giving you a nice big hug. It becomes a little bit annoying. The champion can also slam the ground with a stomp attack, and I have absolutely died due to that stomp attack sending me 1 foot, into a wall. And Bungie's architect code is like, oh, you're gonna, be 1 HP, and then regardless of resilience or restoration, you just die from a stray bullet because there's a million stray bullets. That tends to happen a lot in this raid, so just keep an eye out for the Colossus is stomping and the Nezarec slam as well. It's the same idea. He could just send you into a wall. Even if it's a foot away, you'll just die. It's pretty annoying. Glad they haven't changed that for some decade. If you're ever in trouble, you can Eager Edge out. Again, there's no real rush to this section, so take your time. I end up pushing that champion off the map, which is hilarious. And if you need to, you can re-grab the buff on one side. I don't know if I showed that here, but you can re-grab the buff on one side before going to the other side, and you can just wait. Say I would grab the buff right here, and before I go up, before I would go up, I would just wait out 10 seconds. So the buff only has like 10 seconds on it when I get up here, and then in the middle of the encounter, it would go back to restoration ×2 since it would run out. The final section, you get a lot more space than the second floor, so I think the jumps might be a little bit like more difficult if you didn't have all this open space, but since there's a lot of open space, you can take advantage of stompies and really jump high. And you can also jump wide. It might seem a little counterintuitive to not jump towards your objective a lot of times, but again, it's about getting there quickly and trying to get away from the ads. So sometimes you want to go on the outside of some of these pillars and kind of do like a nice curve towards the orb rather than just go straight at it. So here's a good example. I'm going way out to the left. I would be, technically faster if everything went well to go through the middle, but just going out to the side, there's nothing there. It's an easy jump. You want to double jump there on that node because the floor is really easy to get caught on. It's kind of frustrating because some of the floors in this dungeon, like at the very first encounter, the 1, 2, 3, the third node that you're activating, you can actually activate it from the second floor, and it's really easy and consistent to just do that instead of dropping down and then having to come back up. Great Eager Edge. And another great Eager Edge. I was gonna say there's a couple of those in here. It's always frustrating too because you're running out of time at this. You're like really trying to save every second that you can. This jump here can be a little bit difficult sometimes. You really want to try to get up there in one go because if you get stuck at the bottom, there's usually like a Colossus or something that will just slow you down there. It's really frustrating. it can seem like you're running out of time when you get to this side. There's only like 25 seconds left or something. But as you can see here, you can complete that light section super easily. Ended up having plenty of time left over for this part. And again, all the time in the world to clear these sections. There's no reason to rush it and die because you just went too fast. The next secret chest is coming up after this section. Same with the next red border. I'll showcase that. It's going to be the same as the first one. You walk into a room with a light buff and a dark buff. And again, at the beginning, it was dark, light, dark. So we'll be grabbing the light buff in that room and completing the node. God, I just love throwing the Forerunner nades. It's just, it two taps these enemies, and then the grenades do some like 20k damage to everything. Very fun. And I often forget to use my super. You can definitely switch to Blade Barrage on this part if you don't like want to use Gold Gun, because I just find Blade Barrage a little bit easier to just press super and kill whatever the heck is in front of you, and instead of having to worry about hitting a crit, because Gold Gun does like no damage if you hit a body shot. The first encounter is what I just recommended on, because those Tormentors just take so much increased damage to the crits. Oh, and then, yeah, sorry, there's a puzzle after this. It's not really that much of a puzzle. I think it's just a sad excuse for a load zone. You just complete the orbs like you would the entire rest of the dungeon, so I'm not sure why they even have it in the game, but alas. Yeah, there's the incinerators I was talking about earlier. They don't really boop you that far. Egreg can always bring you back. And here's another example of, you can just skate and jump across these normally. I end up using the platforms in a pinch, because having Egreg go the wrong direction is just so frustrating when you're really trying to cross the chasm. And getting hit by a slow from a Colossus in the middle of it too is just a guaranteed death. Yeah, this is the puzzle. You're just connecting the dots again. Really just slowing. For some reason, the orbs in this room are pretty bugged. I don't know if that happens in this recording. I think it does. But if you shoot the orbs and exit the aura too fast, you won't get the buff, which is really weird, because you can grab the buff and dunk the orbs on all of the other ones in the raid really consistently, like no matter how far away you are. But for these ones, it's just, you have to be basically touching them. Not quite sure why that is. Yeah, there it is. Like, not sure why. And you never notice until you go to dunk and you're like, oh, where's the buff? Yeah, great game. The next section, a lot of groups struggle on to go quickly through. And if you die and revive yourself, you're always sent back pretty far. My advice is, one, just kind of be patient, or two, learn a route. Very similar to how you would do like the Crota first encounter. Either get good and learn how to go fast, or don't bother and just go slow and steady. A lot of people, I'll show a shortcut that's up ahead. Again, we're not skating here, so there's not going to be some crazy movement tech where I'm like flying across the map. This is just jumping with stompies and egreg. We're going to grab this light one and we're going to dunk, not at the next dark, but at the following one. And we're going to sit there and then go get the red border. A lot of people go to the right after this launcher. I have no idea why. You can just go left. There's the next launcher. So if you didn't know that shortcut, now you do. It feels like a Super Mario 64 shortcut. It's like once you learn them, it's super obvious. And you don't have to dunk the field of light buff instantly. You can wait until 1 second or 0 seconds. And then it'll stay lit on the ground for an absolutely absurd amount of time. So every time you see the burst from, I don't know what it's called, the thing, that's when it's safe to move, as long as you have full darkness refresh. We got audio again. And so you don't have to, wait until it passes you. In fact, that time that's spent waiting, could just be used to run and get to the next one a lot more safely. Here, I grab a bunch of extra ammo. If you're really lucky, this platform right here could launch you to the end, or that pad, which is really funny. I've had it happen a couple times, and I don't. It didn't happen in this recording, but it's always pretty interesting. It's just to get sent by these things and go Mach 8 towards the exit. You do end up missing the secret chest if you do that, but Again, most of the guns from this raid aren't that good. So, and they're red borders. I'm sorry, dungeon. So, you know, you can just get them over time. Just the open the secret chest door. You have to shoot that little node right there, and then you just climb up. There's a door that you can go through, but it's slow. Just go up and around. It's fine. The door is underneath this section. Normally you have to wait for your other 2 teammates to join you, but in this case you can just go. I don't end up using this buff. It's just a safety one that you can grab if you are slow. You can just stay in that room, wait for the thing to pass, and then you can go. If you're fast, you can just skip ahead to this next node right here. And if you're quick enough, this is actually your final refuge that you need to grab. You can go straight from here to the end if you're quick. I grab another one because this was a flawless attempt. I ended up dying at Planets. Planets is definitely going to be the heaviest reset point for this. I'll talk more about it when we get there. But, yeah, most of the attempts, once you get good at it, the first and second encounter are pretty consistent. You know, they have a set pattern, a set cycle. Once you learn how to, you know, not get screwed over by the ads and eager edge, and it's really just, you know, following through with practice, and you'll get through it no problem. I end up staying at this dark orb right here. There was totally enough time to go to the end, but again, just for flawless sake, I stayed. And because if you die, it takes forever to come back. You get a really bad spawn point. And again, anytime you see the little, I don't know what it's called, the big nut, send out the refuge wave, the overwhelming dark, overwhelming light, you can move forward. You'll always have enough time. Here you can, you know, see it might get a little close at 2 seconds, but it's totally fine. And the closer you are to it, obviously, the less time you need to waste. Yeah, I think there I disconnected from the Discord call. Everybody else had left at that point. Alright, heading into Planets. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, this ended up not being a flawless run. I got close on my first attempt. I actually did... Planets has around 12.8 million health. I did like 12.5, so a real shame. Here's the splice. I'm not the best editor, sorry. So I'm really sad about that, because Nezarec is way more consistent once you have enough practice at it. I would say, you know, Nezarec is one of the easier parts of this. I actually find myself having more difficulty with the second encounter than Nezarec. Onto this, you're going to want a 1-2 punch shotgun, be it Wastelander, is what I recommend, because it has lead from gold, and we'll get to the animal stuff in a bit. But you're really going to have to go fast. That is the name of Planets. It's all about learning to go really, really fast. You don't necessarily need to kill every Colossus that's in front of you. That could be a time waste. And you're going to learn the certain patterns on like how to eager edge to certain, you know, faraway planets and whatnot. And at any time, once you finish moving to planets, you're going to want to shoot the nut to continue. I'm going to explain this a little bit better next time, next cycle. But you also really need to be on top of the ad clear. The ad clear is what spawns the Centurions, and there's one of them. And you're going to kill these guys in a certain order as well. I'll get to that again on the second one. But the name of the game is to go fast. You're going to be using Shun Shot to generate heavy ammo because it is an exotic primary. You're going to be using Eager Edge to fly across the map. Every time you see an ad, especially a Scion, you have to kill it. One of the big mistakes I first made when I was doing this is that I would constantly try to shoot the yellow bars because, you know, convention tells us that with incandescent, a yellow bar creates a bigger explosion that causes more scorch attacks. I don't think that's actually true for Sunshot. I think that the Sunburst, or whatever it's called, is the same size regardless of what you end up killing. So it can be better to just shoot the Scions that are next to the yellow bars, and it'll actually kill the yellow bar a lot faster than if you were to try to shoot the yellow bar and kill the red bars with the yellow bar. So that's why we go in that order. Also, the Centurion spawn based on how many ads are killed. So it's a lot easier to kill a Scion than it is the Colossuses or the Phalanxes. So that's why we killed as many Scions as we can possibly see. You can see that I kill, for the first time, I kill a Centurion on the left side, and kill the Colossuses that was next to me to get the callouts, and then the Centurion on the right side. I do the same for this section when you're transporting 3 planets, but I don't do that for the second. That is because you have to kill both Centurions to pick up a planet, and the first one we want to delay picking up the planets as much as possible because we need to figure out the callouts. The second one, we know what the callouts are, so we need to move the planets ASAP in the essence of time. And the third one, again, we can delay the callout so that we can get all of the Colossuses dead. If you kill both Centurions, then you need to kill all 4 Colossuses very quickly while also dunking these 3 planets. It becomes very awkward. You have to kill all of these adds for damage anyways. In this case, I'm using AZ and Ikilos Apex for damage. A lot of people recommend Merciless. I absolutely hate Merciless on this boss. I find it super frustrating to get all the Scions dead but also alive, so you can save 1 or 2. And heading into damage, we're going to be doing a swap for the Ikilos ammo. I know I'm speaking really fast here. But this is a pretty standard Tabo for damage. We're going to shoot off the charged Izzy. We're going to shoot off 10 rounds of Ikilos, and we're doing this so that way we do enough damage to the boss to push into the next tier. Here, bait switch is already procced, so I can just shoot another Apex. And for the final one, again, we're just doing an Izzy swap. Izzy ends up being on like 270 something K. Every shot from the sniper ends up doing like 300, and then each rocket deals around 300. So it's really important to get those 2 rockets off at each plate, because that is going to be the majority of your damage. The sniper, both snipers are really just there to get the boss to transfer plates, because it's way more difficult for you to like have to, or way less DPS for you to have to switch or to reload your rocket and shoot a 3rd shot or a 4th shot. It ends up being better to have some type of, most people use Merciless, but some type of ulterior special ammo DPS. Here the planets are 3-5. I'm not going to go into why they're numbered that. I don't need the whole conversation of front back. But this is going to be 2-4. And anytime it's a 2 or a 5, you're in for quite a bit of a hike compared to, you really want to see 1s and 4s, just because they're a lot faster. And yep, there's the eager edge. You could tell that was going to happen because he was too close. But you really need to prioritize, okay, when do I need to just take another step forward and have a cleaner eager edge? When do I need to go on a curve and go, outside of where the adds are so I can get a clean eager edge? Because eager edge is really going to be your movement, and if you have 2s and 5s, you have to get a clean eager edge, even 2. Or you just will not be fast enough. And a single mistake on speed is just a guaranteed wipe. I probably will include a link to the full footage of this, the raw footage, unedited, uncut, and you'll see how many of my wipes are just because eager edge went the wrong way and I just couldn't go fast enough. Another common wipe point is just not doing enough damage on one of the plates. And end up in that awkward scenario where you have to reload a rocket launcher to shoot another shot, and then overall your damage is so low that you don't end up getting to use all 3 plates. What causes you to go to the next plate is doing enough damage. So if you don't do enough damage, he'll just stay on that previous plate, and the whole entire DPS phase has like a timer to it. So if you just go too slow and you're not doing enough damage, you won't get to use all 3 plates, and it effectively just becomes a wipe. So my recommendation here, if you're learning this part of the dungeon, is don't try to get it on your first try. Try to learn how to get first clean running. Here's the patterns on where to dunk the planets. So here you can see it's dark on the left, so I'm going to go left. I'm going to eager edge there, and then I'm going to go middle. I'm sorry, and then I'm going to go get the, I was going to say, that should be right. I'm going to go middle and grab the upper one, and that allows me to eager edge, and I'm going to grab the bottom one, and that allows me to eager edge again. And that ends up being the fastest way, I think, to do this. I left this Colossus alive, so gotta kill him. Another reason why we kill the left Centurion first, and then we go to the second one after that, is because if you leave the Colossus alive on one side, the moment that you kill a Centurion, they will respawn. So that's why we're leaving them alive, and then killing the Centurion, and then killing the Colossus. Again, you don't need to kill the Colossuses. You can just kill enough Scions, and that'll force the next wave to spawn. Yeah, when you are doing damage, something to prioritize is 1, make sure you're actually switching your freaking loadout. The amount of times where I forget to switch to the surge loadout and just stay on an ammo loadout. way too often. 2, you want to try to keep your nade going into damage, unless you have that release recover or whatever it's called. And that will allow you to heal between plates, because it's very frequent that you end up going to do damage and there's no source of healing and you have Scions shooting you in the back, and the boss does actually quite a bit of damage if you're not in a good position. You can see that was almost a death just from the Scions. And then another thing that's key for damage is that your light plates are going to be a source of weapon damage from the raid mods. And then the dark plates are going to be a source of ability damage. Being a hunter and being with an Izzy Apex loadout, you're not really going to be doing any ability damage other than Nighthawk. So you really want to have Nighthawk saved for a dark plate. And you, for the same reason, you really want to have the dark plate. You want to have your dodge up on cooldown to give you, knock them down ×3. And you want to have the knives ready to weaken. And your goal there when you're on a dark plate is get bait and switch up quickly, just by shooting one Ecolo shot if necessary, not even dumping the mag, and then weaken the target, and then Izzy to Apex, and before the boss is, you haven't done enough damage to send the boss, and before the weakened effect from the first knife goes out, you're going to want to pop Gold Gun and shoot him. And that ends up being that combo of get bait and switch and then weaken and then Izzy, rocket, Gold Gun. That one plate will easily be half your damage, if not more, for the 3 plates combined. So that's why you want to focus on getting a single dark plate correct, and then the other plates are your goal is to do enough damage to get to that dark plate in the case if it's too light, or to just do enough damage to send, to make the third phase a lot cleaner, so you don't have to do an absolute ridiculous amount of damage in Final Stand. A lot of people use Merciless here. I just could not find it consistent. I just switched to Ecolos. Do whatever you feel the most comfortable with. And yeah, learn some parkour. You can get on top of a lot of the parts in this. The boss itself can be a blessing and a curse. He can send you across the map at like Mach 6. That might be really bad if he sends you into the spawn area or to the back of the room. It can be really good if he sends you towards a plate. If you have Eager Edge on cooldown, it's okay to get knocked around, especially if you get knocked vertically, because then you can just Eager Edge to your destination. It's the same with the Scion Grenades. Sometimes you want to purposely be on a plate or in like a dunk position and let the Scions throw a grenade at you. You're not invis. And then you can use the vertical movement from the grenade to go Eager Edge somewhere else, now that you're high enough in the air that you won't get blocked. I don't even think I got to mention it, but we are on Assassin's Cowl here to get the invis. And that is primarily so that we have clean dunks without getting booped or shot from phalanxes or the boss, or slowed from the colossuses. Unfortunately, being an ability, you don't get as much ammo regeneration from, or ammo generation from spamming Assassin's Cowl everywhere. So you do want to be shooting Sunshot more frequently than throwing knives. It can be really tempting to throw the knives because it's very safe, but you just don't. It can't be your primary source. You can't be doing the Arc Hunter problem where you're an asshole to your teammates because you haven't generated a single heavy brick despite killing a million things. This ends up being a double dark plate. As much as it's you might like the dark because it's easier to get your gold guns off. Here I didn't get the second shot on the Apex, so I didn't want a gold gun. I'm also saving gold gun for Final Stand at this point, and it does get a little sketchy with health. Yeah. This can be kind of where Merciless is helpful, in that you're getting a Merciless kill, which will extend your restoration. But to be honest with you, again, I just could not find a use for it. So yeah. Final Stand, you can have a Lucky Pants loadout on standby for both this boss and the next boss. Although, to be honest, if you do good enough damage, it shouldn't be necessary. You're only using it for like 1 or 2 little bits of damage that are left over. You really should, if done correctly, have plenty of ammo. Maybe switch to a shoot to loot rifle where you could pick up a bunch of shots on the ground. And don't forget to get your celebratory dance on the boss's corpse when you're finished, because you definitely deserved it if you get past planets. At this part of the video, if you're still watching, I do want to call it out. If you make it past planets, you have definitely done the hardest part of this raid, hands down. All of the friends that you know who have done solo clears on only Nezarec and have not actually done the full raid, not as good as you. Not even close. Even if you've never done Nezarec yet and you've just done planets successfully one time, you have earned your title as being able to do this raid. Planets is so much harder than Nezarec, and you can make fun of all your friends, and then you can get the clear either that same day, later that night, or on a different day, because again, you've earned it, champ. Yep, another one of these weird puzzles with the glitched orbs. No more secret chests after this. It's just the two. It's a standard dungeon. We do have one more node to get for the red border. Again, the beginning was dark light dark, so I'll show it at the end. I'll shoot the dark orb, and then you'll see it in the bottom left corner. It'll say like actions take root or something weird like that, and that'll indicate that you've shot the order correctly. Nezarec is going to be a little bit interesting as far as there's definitely multiple ways to do it. I don't really know which one's better. My personal preference, the first way would be to do a Merciless Lucky Pants combo, and since you're using only things that require primary special ammo, you can use Eager Edge to run. Put bluntly, you don't need Eager Edge to run, and sometimes it can be more messy. Unlike planets, you're not running Stompy, or I'm sorry, you're not running Stompies on planets either. Unlike planets, you're not gonna have clean jumps, because in planets you're way elevated, compared to most mobs, most ads, so you can just jump over them. But on Nezarec you can't. You're way more likely to just hit something dumb. So feel free to use the Merciless Lucky Pants combo with Eager Edge to move if you want. But I found it far more consistent damage-wise to run Cold Comfort or Cataphract. And then the third option would be to do Merciless with Apex and Radiant Dance Machines. I don't like that combo. I found myself either slipping too much or just missing a rocket, or in the frantic dodging, I'd shoot the pedal that you're going to be hiding under. I'll show that when we get there. And if you shoot the pedal, you just die, obviously. So for a flawless run, I cannot imagine doing Radiant Dance Machines unless you're really well practiced at it. Yeah, maybe you're used to Templar melting and you dance all the time, but with Cold Comfort you can easily get 5 rockets off, and with Dance Machines, best case you get 7, you might get 6, and average case I still think you get 5 either way. It all depends on how good your Merciless damage is, because you can extend that to go longer if you get kill clips correctly. And if you don't get the kill clips correctly, you're going to end Merciless damage, sooner anyways, because it's just so much less than rockets anyways. I do recommend, since it is Season of the Wish, taking advantage of the weekend by having, instead of a restoration grenade, like a solar grenade. And for a similar regard, you want to use the Agent Ordnance. I can't remember what it's called, like Godslayer rockets or something. It's that final column. It stacks with surges, it stacks with weekend, it stacks with everything, so it's extremely good, and just pumps your damage number up to something ridiculous. It's like a 360 per rocket. It's absolutely absurd. You finish LFGs where the average player does like 1 million damage. Here you are, each one of your rockets, just 360. You just shoot 3 of them and you beat most LFG players. Not to be mean, it is a fun dungeon. It's good to do with 3 people, but a little bit interesting how Planets has a much more difficult damage check than the final boss. We're going to be running with Striga, similar to Sunshot in the previous encounter. The ammo generation is primarily from triple finders, which increase the amount of heavy that you get from each brick to the full amount that you would get from each finder brick to the full amount that you would get from a regular brick. And that combined with lead and gold on your sniper rifle is just going to give you all the ammo you need for your special. You are going to have to start each round, for lack of better words, with full special, or not full special, but at least some special, at least like 5 or 6 sniper rounds. And considering you're doing merciless for damage, it's going to be really easy for you to run out of ammo because you're trying to dump it all on Nezarec. So having that lead from gold, being able to just walk out of damage phase and then go find a brick on the ground, a single brick, and then walk away with enough ammo to run the encounter, and then while you're running, you naturally pick up the rest of the other stuff. Definitely makes it easier. Father's Sins is what I'm using here because I found lead from gold with Eye of the Storm really helpful. You really want to have an adaptive or an aggressive frame, ideally, but the rapid fire is still a one-shot on the shoulders when you have Radiant, so I just use that instead. It's really easy to get Radiant here. You can throw a knife at like a million enemies. If you noticed, there was another cut. I'm going to call it out this time because for planets it doesn't matter, but for Nezarec, you have when you have the very first phase after wiping, you actually have more time. You might have noticed this in an LFG run. You have more time on a wipe run than on a legit run. So on a wipe run, you can get both the light and the dark first nodes completed, but on a legit run, you can only get one of the sides finished before he starts his hatred. It's actually the same thing for the second and third phases, so I'll call it out when we get there. You'll notice that I complete just dark node number 1. For running, again, this is pattern recognition. You're going to want to try to finish both 1s, and then finish a 2 and 3 on one of the side. Hopefully even number 4 if possible. Here you can see I get 1, 2, 3 on one side and 2 on the other side before he does his burst. That's ideal. You want to be greedy. That's my recommendation for this part. You want to go for the gold every single time. Imagine you're just a full-blown sprinter. You don't want to, half-ass it, kind of. You want to always try to get the next node, if possible, and fit it in within the time before he does his little refuge surge. The reason for this is it'll teach you how to go faster, and the name of the game here is speed. You really want you get to the final hatred burst. You want to only have 1 or 2 nodes left, ideally. If you have something like 4 nodes left, you're going to cut it close. It's going to be a little bit too close for comfort by the time you get to the damage. And it might even be a scenario where like you pop the node, but then you just wipe anyways because you were too slow, right? So here we can see that I have, I think, 2 nodes left on light and 1 left on dark. This is what I mean. This is more ideal. Yeah. And you're always going to be looking out for the hatred icon on the left side. That'll tell you when Nezarec is about to open up his chest, or open up to an ideal sight of his chest. If you sit there and wait for Nezarec to open his chest up to get shot at, then you're probably wasting too much time waiting that you could just be used running. You want to run near safe locations where you can see his chest, and the moment you see the hatred pop up is when you want to turn around and shoot it. You don't want to sit there and be patient waiting for it to open. You're wasting too much runtime. Especially when it comes to like Cold Comfort, where you have to try to squeeze in an extra finish. Yeah, if you have Father's Sins and it's full on ammo and you switch to Merciless while Merciless has reserves, then you'll get full ammo on the Merciless. I find it easy to shoot the chest. Instead of the shoulders, the only difference with the chest is that you can't shoot it too early. You actually have to wait until it comes back from shooting the hatred earlier. So it can be a little bit awkward. And you want to throw a knife at the legions to get, your max radiant up. And this ended up being super fumbled. I didn't notice that. And you want to throw your solar nade when he goes into the air, and that'll allow you to have the weaken effect for the whole time for your rocket launcher. So I don't think that was a good damage cycle. I'll probably show it off on the next one. I think it was a much cleaner one. But again, to recap, you want to have Merciless ready, or Gold Gun ready, shoot his chest. After you weaken him by throwing your knife at an ad, and then you with the weakened the gold gun applying weaken, you can shoot merciless for quite a bit. And then when the merciless, you're trying to shoot an ad, like while you're shooting him, you want to try to shoot an ad to get kill clip on merciless. And then you throw your knife when you reload your merciless to get the next burst of merciless weakened. And then the last burst of merciless, either one you can skip it if he's already in the air, because merciless really isn't that much, better than just reloading another rocket. It's better if you have enough time to do that. And you want to make sure bait and switch is procced by either switching to your primary if you forgot to, or you just pull it out anyways because you want to make sure its bait and switch is actually procced correctly. And yeah, dump your rockets. I find Cold Comfort to be really good here because you can stay in the same spot. There is a positioning to the damage. You want to stand under the pedal, and you want to stand on the right side and pretty far back. You actually want to step back quite a bit. If you're too far forward, you end up being on the same plane as Nezarek's slam, and that'll send you flying. So if you find yourself being, pushed by his slam at Mach 6 all the time, you're probably way too far forward. You just need to take a step back. It can seem a little bit counterintuitive to get further away from the boss, but it helps because, one, you're not going to get pushed off. Two, you're still well within merciless range, so your damage doesn't get that much lowered. 3, it helps that the boss is actually going to stay where he is. If you're too far forward, he might take a step back. It's really weird. I've seen it a couple times. I don't know why he acts like that. And he can step far enough back to go all the way to middle, and you lose your merciless damage. And 4, the reason you step back is because you're outside of the range for your rocket to kill yourself. And him being, standing there and not moving, it's really easy to just dump your 4 or 5 rocket shots, regardless of where he is. So you want to prioritize staying alive, which is, again, standing pretty far back. Another hint for before you go into damage, feel free to kill all of the ads in middle and on the light side, but you do not want to Osteo-Striga the ads on the dark side, right where damage is. If you kill a single ad with Striga, chances are you've killed all of them. So you can see here I'm killing the middle, but not the dark side. And if you kill all of them, there's nothing alive for Merciless, and it ended up becoming a really bad damage phase, or for your knife to come back. So you can kill a couple of these guys with the knife, and that's fine. Just don't kill them with Striga, because you'll kill them all. Let's see if this ends up being a better lineup. If you look at the flower, you can see when damage is about to start. So here I've switched to Merciless, and I don't ready the gold gun until I see a couple of the ticks of the dark go by, and then I pop up when I see the flower, becoming lit. That ends up not being a crit shot because I shot too soon, and all of the ads are dead because I killed too many with the knife earlier, but ends up being fine. So here you can see throw the knife for weaken, and that'll get extra radiant to the top off, and extra merciless damage. Switch to the rocket for a nade, actually hit him this time, and there's what, 320 something thousand damage per rocket. It's an absolutely absurd amount. If your ammo economy is good, which ideally it should be, go ahead and be greedy and try to shoot an extra rocket shot off. Chances are you will actually hit it, and that's 300k that you don't have to deal during Final Stand. So I do recommend trying to be greedy the entire Nezarec fight. It'll teach you to go faster, it'll teach you to do a little bit better damage, and ideally you have just so much extra ammo on the ground it shouldn't matter anyways. So back to the point earlier, when you wipe, you can get these 2 nodes to start with, but on second and third phase you can't. This is why we have to be so greedy and go so fast. So if you find yourself, being unable to get to the second damage, but consistently able to get to, first damage, the reason is likely that you just aren't getting 1 or 2 enough orbs. And one of the biggest benefits to go really fast here is that, the faster you go, the more often you have restoration procced up because you're dunking more of the nodes. So I've said it like 100 times, I'll say it again. This dungeon is all about being greedy, and yeah. um, when possible, you want to try to get as many enemies poisoned as possible in the middle and on the light side. I find it a little bit more difficult to get all the enemies poisoned on the dark side, and Striga is going to be what is generating your ammo. If I were to say one thing that was kind of bad during this particular run of mine is that I did not generate enough heavy ammo. Ends up working out just fine at the end. You'll see my damage is totally with good numbers. It was totally fine. But an extra rocket would have made it a lot easier. So, ooh, here's a boop. Getting booped and slowed by the Colossuses are super frustrating. You want to kind of have like a sixth sense for where Nezarec is at all times, because you don't want to be on the outside of a map or near spawn when he's up in the air and slamming. That has like a very easy chance to just send you across the map and you're just gonna die. If this is a flawless attempt that you're going for, I'm sure you've already learned this by now, but the saddest thing you can do is make it through planets, which is very difficult, and then die to getting pushed off by Nezarec. It's happened to me a couple times, and yeah, it's sad. Because Nezarec is typically the easiest part of this raid, in my opinion. I wonder where that heavy came from. I think I finished something for Cold Comfort, and that's what got it. You can use Cataphract for this if you have the God Roll. Oh, it's over there. And that will be really consistent good damage, just like Cold Comfort will be. I end up using Cold Comfort because of the seasonal artifact. But Cataphract, I tested with several times, and it did just as fine. Heavy ammo is a little bit more difficult to find, but not that much. When you're running triple finders in Striga, you usually just get a lot, so not much to say there. Just like planets, if you end up finding yourself going into Final Stand, you want to save your gold gun for the actual Final Stand and not pop it too early. The reason being is you don't want to over damage and then hit a damage threshold, because the damage just gets wasted. You'll see here one of the rockets gets wasted, and that ends up being totally fine because you'd rather waste a rocket than a gold gun. And always have a Lucky Pants build. It doesn't have to be Malfeasance. It can honestly be any hand cannon. 7th Seraph for Wardens. Those will do just fine. And yeah, look at that. That was so close. I almost just primaried him with frickin' Battle Scar. Couple shots from Lucky Pants will finish him off. And there you go. That's how you finish the Voodoo Nightmares dungeon. Leave a comment if you end up finding this a little bit useful. It's a little satirical that I called this a dungeon the whole time. Obviously, this is a pretty fun raid. But being able to solo it from end to end is kind of fascinating, especially since we're not glitching it like VOG. We're mostly doing this as intended. And oh, the sidearm. I was like, there's something else from this raid that's decent. It is a sidearm. Obviously, when Strand Surgers are going to go away from all the activities, the sidearm's going to fall off the cliff just like Rufus. But hey, if you get this far, you totally deserve all the red borders you can get for that grenade launcher, so you can go kill Garden quicker. I do a quick overview of the loadouts. I don't remember how much time I spend on them, so do pause it if you need to look at them a little bit better. Again, the first encounter, trying to get the mobility up, trying to get the recovery or the resilience up. Then this is the running loadout I have for the planets encounter. The ammo loadout is going to be pretty much the same thing. I have Izzy there instead of the shotgun because it's nice to reload Izzy while you're walking around. Standard damage, Apex, Ikelos. You don't need Ikelos, you can use Twilight Oath, but I like Ikelos a lot better, just because it's so consistent. And Envious Assassin's kind of annoying to proc in the middle of a fight. There's my running loadout, there's the ammo loadout, there's Merciless. Sometimes people switch the Nighthawk with like Radiant Dance Machines with the Surges. You can see I have a Radiant Dance Machine on loadout number 5. I don't think I highlight it. I don't end up using it. Having Argent Ordnance is really good for Cold Comfort, so it ends up being really consistent. And then standard malfeasance. If you don't have malfeasance, just use another hand cannon. Honestly, if you're pulling out the hand cannon last minute,